And we're back with another Gab with Abigail. If you aren't back and this is your first time on my channel, hi, welcome to Gabs with Abigail, where we talk about the Bates and Duggars and other D-list fundies. For today's video, we are talking about a topic I have never talked about at length on this channel, and that is Girl Defined. For those that don't know, Girl Defined is an evangelical ministry composed of sister duo Kristen Clark and Bethany Beal, aka Bethy. They are described in the snark community as Fundie light, meaning they have a lot of the same core Fundie beliefs but wore pants growing up. Their ministry is meant to promote biblical womanhood and fight against feminism. In other words, traditional gender roles, modesty, sexual purity, homophobia, transphobia. There is so much that can be said about their content, but today we are focusing on Bethy and her recent shift to content about sexual intimacy as a Christian wife. Bethy didn't get married until she was 30, which in Christian girl years is like 1 foot in the grave. In addition to saving her virginity, Bethany also saved her first kiss for marriage. Yes, she was raised as that sort of Fundie purity culture participant. So you can imagine how unsurprising it was when she admitted to having struggled with sexual intimacy in her marriage. What was shocking was her saying that while purity culture did contribute to this, Girl Defined didn't contribute to toxic purity culture. Now, I'm wondering if she read her book or what it is that she's defining purity culture as. In general, this shift to sex-positive content has been jarring not only to Bethany's detractors, but to her fan base. The Girl Defined target audience has been teen girls and young women. Books about defining womanhood and understanding purity are not books written for married women. Even though Bethany and her sister are married, their content has always been aimed at women who are single. It's weird that Bethany thinks she doesn't owe her audience an apology or explanation, or that their feelings about her content are not valid. For 10 years, they've been giving very narrow purity advice to a very particular demographic. So for Bethany to act like her followers are married like her is strange to me. The assumption that her audience has grown up with her when the content that she has posted for years makes me honestly forget that she's 35.
You 36!
Her shift in content is like if I suddenly started posting K-pop videos without any explanation. I've hinted that I'm a New Jeans bunny, but my subscribers would probably think that that change was strange. And when they asked me about it, if I was like, it's my page, you can leave, that would be so rude and ungrateful to the support that you guys have shown me. During the summer/fall of 2023, as she pushed almost exclusively her ultimate sex course, she saw a significant uptick in people unfollowing her account. The segs content started as a slow burn in 2022. During that year, she had a lot of content focused on strengthening communication with your husband, and here and there she shared her favorite Christian intimacy podcaster/Instagram. She was primarily plugging her ebooks, and She Works, her online ebook on how to sell online ebooks in 2022. Now, this is probably harsh because I do believe that Bethany genuinely wants to help other women have better sex lives. However, because she will not acknowledge the role her platform has played in continuing purity culture, I have to stay on her neck. She passes off perpetuating purity culture by focusing on having also been a victim of it. It's not her fault and Girl Defined's fault because this bigger thing existed before them. I mean, they already apologized for God-honoring makeup. Does Bethy really need to say sorry for her 2019 blog post challenging girls to save their first kiss for marriage? She's already demonized Joshua Harris for I Kissed Dating Goodbye. Who knows? Maybe sex purity in the longing of a girl's heart does backtrack and apologize, and we will learn that as we read. She has already said that she still stands by everything that she's written in that book. And so, for these reasons, the next book in my Fundie Book Club series is Sex, Purity, and the Longing of a Girl's Heart, Discovering the Beauty and Freedom in God-Defined Sexuality by Kristen Clark and Bethany Beal. Honestly, I wasn't going to say anything about the whole Bethy Segs thing until I saw this video, and it pissed me the hell off.
That's what happens when you have a Christian upbringing. You have all of these problems in sex. I always get those kinds of comments whenever I'm talking about sex. And here's the deal. Like, have you read any books, like Come As You Are, any books written by people who are not writing to religious women? Have you listened to podcasts on sex by people who are not religious? Like, women across the board, from Christian circles to non-Christian circles, are honestly asking the same questions and really struggling with similar things. It's okay to normalize that women are complex sexual beings and need answers, need help. We need to learn how to be free in this area and take off the brakes so that we can actually enjoy. Like, that's something that women all over the world need, not just Christian women. But if you are a Christian woman and you want help and advice in your sex life, how to experience orgasm, how to grow in your sexuality, how to become more passionate and just experience more pleasure, the Ultimate Sex Course for Christian Women was designed with you in mind. I brought on the most amazing sex experts, and they really are talking to you and really addressing your questions as a Christian.
It's so frustrating to watch someone be so committed to being ignorant. I also understand that for fundies like Bethany, it's already a lot to be deconstructing your beliefs around sex, especially you believe deconstruction means leaving the Christian faith. And would never use that language for what it is that, exactly that you're doing. So learning has to have certain limits, because God forbid any more gray pollutes fundamentalism's black and white thinking. But it sometimes feels like a special level of cognitive dissonance that we're watching. The same people that will aggressively state that America was founded based on Christianity somehow think it is an unrelated reason that women who aren't raised religious struggle with sexual intimacy. Like, I know Bethany was part of the homeschool movement, and so maybe she doesn't know what was taught in Texas about sex ed when she was growing up. I guess it's too complex to think about abstinence programs receiving federal funding at the height of purity culture as maybe playing a part. Matter of fact, let's pause for a moment to read the February 2nd, 2018 Girl Defined blog post about teaching safe sex. Someone wrote an email to me recently and said, the fact is, giving an abstinence-only sex education is not going to make things any safer. I believe there is no harm in educating teenagers about safe sex. This type of thinking is really popular today. There is a huge push in our culture to indoctrinate teens with a safer sex education program. If you attend public school or watch any TV, you've probably been exposed to it. It goes something like this. Teens are going to do it anyway, so might as well teach them how to do it responsibly. The mindset of our culture is that teens are so irresponsible, immature, and wild, we can't possibly teach them to save sex for marriage. So we'll just teach them how to avoid the consequences of premarital sex, i.e., pregnancy, STDs, emotional damage, etc. Sadly, this type of thinking reflects our society's loss of the sacredness and beauty of sexual intimacy. We no longer value sex as God values it. We no longer cherish the sacred intimacy of the marriage bed, Hebrews 13, verse 4. We no longer esteem purity and faithfulness. In a culture where sex is constantly being devalued, we as Christian women must look to God's word for our guidance. God created sexual intimacy for marriage alone, Genesis 2, verse 24, 1 Corinthians 7, 2 through 5. We must accept God's truth as his best for our lives. We must trust that God's plans and boundaries for sex are for our own good. Premarital safe sex isn't God's best plan for us. In fact, it pales in comparison to the beauty of God-defined sexual intimacy within a committed marriage. If you're still doubtful, here are 3 great reasons why safe sex isn't all that great. 1, safe sex isn't all that safe. Number 1, safe sex isn't actually all that safe. In doing research for this post, I came across article after article explaining what safe sex education is and how to put it into practice. However, at the end of each article, there was always some small disclaimer, kind of a do it at your own risk sort of disclaimer. One popular website stated, just as seatbelts cannot guarantee you will not be injured in a car accident, practicing safer sex is also not 100% guarantee. Some STDs, such as the human papillomavirus and herpes, can be spread through skin-to-skin contact. The truth is, safe sex isn't actually all that safe. There are millions of people in America who bought into this lie and now find themselves suffering from terrible sexually transmitted diseases. Check out these shocking statistics. In the United States alone, there are 20 million new STD infections each year. There are 110 million STDs among women and men in the US today. 50% of new infections are in people's ages 15 through 24. Over at livescience.com, they stated that sexually transmitted diseases are one major group of diseases that are make for ongoing hidden epidemics in America. Safe? I don't think so. Those statistics are frightening, and that doesn't include the large number of unplanned pregnancies that occur each year. Number 2, safe sex ignores God's designs. Every time we as humans try to bypass God's design, we reap the consequences. Sin has consequences. God is our creator and he designed sex. It's a wonderful and glorious thing in the right context. Outside of God's context, there are serious repercussions. Safe sex education completely ignores God's design for sex. God never intended for sex to be shared between a boyfriend and girlfriend, a partner, or as a casual encounter. Sex was designed for a monogamous marriage, where one husband and one wife become one flesh as a seal of their lifelong covenant. I just have to pause because it's just like whenever they say stuff like this, I'm like, okay, so then what was going on between Lot and his daughters? Why was that included in the Bible? I want to know it. I want to know it. And what about that king who had a couple more and then what about when Sarah brought her handmaiden to Abraham? What was that about? I want to know it. I want to understand it. I mean, how safe and free from transmitted diseases could any of that have been? Because clearly he was with multiple bitches. Like, I want to know what that means, girl defined. I need that defined for me, actually. Continuing the article. By God's grace, my husband Zach and I followed God's plan for sex by saving it for marriage. While we were dating, we never had to worry about contracting STDs, becoming single parents, taking birth control, suffering emotional damage, and more. It was extremely freeing. And now, 6 years into our marriage, we are still reaping the benefits of following God's design. Pursuing purity before marriage has been a strong anchor that draws us even closer together today. God's plan for sex isn't stifling. It's truly liberating. It produces the best possible long-term results for a vibrant relationships. 3, safe sex prefers feelings rather than truth. We live in a culture. I'm sorry. We live in a culture where the new religion is our feelings. We're told through secular songs, magazines, movies, and blogs that our feelings reign supreme. If it feels right for you, do it. If it makes you happy, go for it. Follow your heart wherever it leads you. This is the attitude that underlines safe sex education. If you feel like having sex with your boyfriend, go for it. But just be safe. As females, this message is undoubtedly damaging to us since we tend to be driven by our emotions more than guys. How often have our feelings deceived us? How often have we acted on our emotions only to regret it an hour later? When it comes to something as intimate as sex, we should never allow our feelings to drive the train. Instead, we need to be vigilant to speak truth to our hearts and redirect our emotions towards what is true and right. While I was engaged to Zach, I had strong feelings and desires for sex. Who doesn't? This is natural. This is how God designed it. However, I didn't allow my strong feelings to be my compass. Obeying God and trusting in his plan was my driving force. And that meant waiting. That meant going against my feelings, and I'm so glad I did. You can do the same. Choose to base your life on God's truth, and your feelings will eventually catch up. Choose to honor God's plan for sex no matter what your feelings tell you. Regardless of how popular premarital sex is today, it will never produce this type of committed, intimately satisfying, trusted long-term love that we long for. It can't, because it is the opposite of how we were created to function best. Yes, this is still posted on their website, which makes me feel confident that there will be something along these lines in the books. There is no such thing as safe sex. God forbid a sex ed class gives someone the language to recognize or report abuse. Besides, I'm sure ideas about submission and men as leaders make it natural and comfortable for women to vocalize their sexual needs. While Christianity is not the only reason American women struggle with sexual intimacy, to pretend that it has not had an impact on non-Christian women is stupid. Like, I'm sure the girl who didn't grow up in church but grew up in the Bible Belt has some hang-ups about sex. I think that by saying these things, Bethany thinks that she's being unapologetic about her faith, but really it just shows her limited ability to have introspection. Bethy practices a kind of selfish version of Christianity, which makes it understandable why she feels she doesn't owe the internet the humility required to say, I was wrong, and I'm still learning about this, and I might still get things wrong along the way. This might also require her to question how appropriate it is to be monetizing all of this. IDK, I just think it's kind of crazy to keep up the blog post stating, quote, like me, so many Christian girls strive to save their virginity for their future husbands, but very few are passionate about saving their minds for their husbands as well. Being a virgin with your body is encouraged in every Bible-believing church, but what about being a virgin with your mind too? Are you a mind virgin? While also vehemently denying contributing to purity culture. The first girl to find conference was called radical purity, like all of this behavior cannot be excused away with. Well, we're all sexually broken. We're going to talk about the sexually broken thing in the next video. I have a lot I could say about Bethany's segs content itself. Like, it's so hard to take advice from somebody about being sexy when I just spent the last 4 years of her telling us that she shares a toothbrush with her sisters and husband because she can't be bothered. But I feel like what I have to say is teetering on the line of mean and bitchy. So I'm going to save that for like a Patreon or something. Anyways, I'm excited to read this book with you guys all. I promise it's not going to take 2 years to get through. And see you for the first chapter very, very soon.
Let's go. It's like,